Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Redux What Ifs, and today I'm gonna be bringing y'all what if Miles Morales replaced Peter in a Spectacular Spider-Man series. This is gonna be season 1, episode 2. The first episode I did was live, so go check it out in the live section. I already did episode 1 there, so this is gonna be a continuation or where we left off for episode 2. All right. So make sure y'all go check out the live. I will be going live again to finish What If Goku Was in Smallville. I had to cut the live short last night because the laptop kind of fucked me over. But we back. And no, the laptop is not broken because I just got that shit. And if it did break, oh my gosh, you know how upset I'll be. I'll probably do a Corey Kenshin for real and just disappear for like 3 months. I'm playing, but yeah, so make sure y'all go check out the first part. First part is already up in the live section, and don't mind me digging in the bag because I'm hungry right now. So this thing is always hitting for real. So yeah, without any further ado, we're gonna put the thumbnail right here, and I finally get to say, we're gonna let this intro play, and we're gonna get into the what if.
Trust who? Trust me and I can set you free. Left your man, came straight to me. You the real MVP, my love. Ride dirty like Pimp C. You a real 10-speed freak.
Now, if you remember where we left off at the end of season 1, episode 1, where Miles has become Spider-Man. Well, they call him Spider-Kid, but calls himself Spider-Man. But they're gonna still say Spider-Kid for now. So now we open up with episode 2 as Miles, Gwen, and Finn have that scholarship working with what is it? Finn's brother, Mason, forgot her last name, but excuse me. So it's basically Finn's brother that's working. So instead of it being Max Dillon, it's gonna be Finn's brother, Mason. And pretty much everything goes to canon as instead of it being Max Dillon is Finn's brother. So they're there on a field trip. Finn's not there. She didn't go on the field trip. So she was at school today, so she went home early. And Miles and Gwen along with Liz is there, right? So everything goes to canon where they were doing that amplification and biocurrent test with a contract tech from Oscorp, and Finn's older brother was there. So the other students are there, and Mason was very confident in his abilities. So he was a little overconfident, but there was a miscalibration, and this was Oscorp's doing unknowingly and unknowingly. So that's when the power surge happens. The eels violently discharge, and Mason's brother gets thrown into the conductive gel tank, and a huge explosion happens as Miles was able to push Liz and Gwen out the way, and other students took cover as security and medical personnel trying to get him from up out of there. And that's when Mason is gone. And then that's when we flash to Finn walking in the door as she calls him to make sure that he's okay, because every time when she calls, he usually answers. So he left a voicemail, she left a voicemail, and saying, okay, maybe he's, actually caught up for work, I won't bother him. It's excuse me, damn. Said it's kind of weird, but it's that's when he was like that's when she was like, she'll let it go for the day. So that's when it fades to black and up to the city as we title card the spectacular Spider-Man theme song, but instead of being Peter, it's Miles, and I'm gonna have a little song for that, his theme song. I don't fucking know, bro. I'm just going with this shit. So I'm gonna insert a song here for Miles' theme song for the spectacular Spider-Man, and y'all gonna fuck with it. If y'all don't fuck with it, y'all still gonna fuck with this what if I'm doing. So if y'all don't fuck with it, just skip the theme song.
Nostalgia. It's delicate, but potent.
Purchase your tracks today.
All right, now that we got that out the way, excuse me. We gonna start the day off with Miles going to school, and he walks into science class, as he's still remembering and replaying the accident that happened. And Finn didn't come to school today because she just found out, so she's currently with her brother right now. And that's when his teacher, sees him walks in. He was like, "Mr. Morales, the man of the hour." Perfect timing, actually. So he was wearing his hoodie, man. He got the hoodie on with some white jeans and some, we'll say some white forces, man. He over here ain't trying to do too much, but the drip dripping right now. So that's when Liz was scrolling through her phone. Flash over there being a clown. Gwen is handing out assignments, and that's when the teacher said, "Morales, since you seem to know your way around electric currents, you'll be tutoring Miss Allen until her grade rises. I expect electrifying results." And then that's when Miles was electrifying. I don't think I have the voltage or the fuses to do that. I thought it was voluntary. And that's when the teacher was like, "You are volunteering by getting an A. Since you got an A, you're being voluntold." And that's when Miles was like, "I guess I have no choice." And that's when he was like, "But I'll do it if I could get no assignments for the next 2 weeks." And that's when the teacher said, "You got yourself a deal." And that's when Miles was like, "Really?" He was like, "I was expecting more of an incomplete circuit for those results, but I guess so." And that's when Liz looks up from her phone, amused but unimpressed. That's when class finally let out, and that's when Miles was walking out, and Liz stopped him real quick, and that's when she told him, "I don't like my time being wasted, so don't waste my time." That's when she said science is really not her thing. And that's when Miles was like, neither was me showing up on time, but I'm trying to make progress. If you could work with me, I'll be more than happy to work with you. And that's when Liz started getting a little smirky, because hey, she's starting to notice how good my dog Miles looks. She like, damn, he kind of, he got the fresh fade, he got the hair picked out, twisted up, trying to get some freeform twist going on, what I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying? So she was like, she got her eyes out on Miles for now. So that's when Flash goes by. Since Flash and Liz are dating, I think this is where they're still dating. And then that's when Flash walks by, because Flash and Liz are currently not on good terms right now. So that's when Flash was like, "Look at Morales, thinks he's smooth and shit." And then that's when Miles was like, "You say something, Dash?" He was like, "No, I didn't say anything. And even if I did, what are you gonna do now? He was like, you know what? Must be your bottom lip, homeboy. And then that's what that's when Flash was like, what is that supposed to mean, Morales? And then that's when Miles was like, he was like, he was like, I assume you have some brain cells in there, man. Why don't you figure it out? And then that's when some of the students started laughing, and Liz started kind of, smirking about it a little bit, right? So we're gonna fast forward to Miles leaving Uncle Aaron's crib. He did his homework for the day, and he was gonna meet up with Liz for about, we're gonna say 3 to 5, a slight 2-hour study session. Try to make Liz, retake the test and bring her grade up. So, after he kicks it with Uncle Aaron gives him some piece of advice. That's when he was chilling up, as he was leaving Uncle Aaron's crib. Uncle Aaron was like, yo, nephew, it was like, you got any girls that you talking to? And that's when Mom was like, girls, man, I'm just doing my own thing, And he was like, if I could give you some advice, look, man, don't chase them, nephew. Talk to them, look in the eyes, establish that settled dominance. Don't force it. He was like, be confident, but don't be cocky, man. And that's when Miles was like, all right, Unc, I'll take it. I'll take your advice. And that's when he's like, good. He was like, and you stay out of trouble. And he was like, I already have your dad breathing down my neck. I don't need your mom doing it too. And he was like, I'm always out of trouble. He was like, good. And then as Miles leaves, that's when Uncle Aaron closed the door. And then that's when he pulls up his Prowler suit as Tombstone goes on the monitor. He was like, Prowler. He was like, long time no see. He was like, Tombstone. I was like, we go back, but if it's one of those weird jobs that you want me to do, I'm not taking it. He was like, no, I have a better paying job, and I need you to do something for me. I was like, this kid, he's been talked about quite recently, and he's quite troublesome when it comes to him dismissing or even making me miss out on my money. He was like, I'm the crime lord, and I'm following close behind Kingpin, and I don't need this meddling spider kid, whatever he calls him, to be meddling in my operations, our operations. So here, how about this? I'll double your pay weekly, and I need you to do some reconnaissance on this kid. And once I give the signal, take him out. And then that's when Uncle Aaron was like, that's when Uncle Aaron said, all right, you got yourself a deal. I'll expect my payment as usual. But until then, I'll do my recon on my own time. And that's when Tombstone said, that's what I like about you. You have your own terms on your own rules. He was like, wow, I don't like, when you're on your own time. I can't deny that you do get the job done. So that's when Tombstone said, other than that, you're dismissed. He was like, I'll expect my information when you have it. And that's when Uncle Aaron waved him off, and that's when the screen comes by, and that's when Uncle Aaron begins to suit up as the Prowler. Now, as we fade to black, we cut to the next scene with Miles coming to the study lounge, and that's when Miles gets there before Liz, right? And then they sit across. They're about to sit across from each other as Miles pulled her seat out. It's like, ladies first. And then that's when Liz was like, oh, so you have a little chivalry in you. He was like, just flashing out hold doors for you, or at least do the bare minimum, pull out your seat. And that's when she was like, Flash is just Flash. And that's when Miles was like, I'll take that as a no then. And then that's when they begin to study, and that's when she's actually trying a little bit. And then that's when Miles was like, that's when Miles was like, so it seems you have the concepts down, you just don't like the equations. And then that's when Liz was like, they just start looking weird to me, and then they just don't make sense. It's like they hate me or something. And that's when Miles was like, nah. He was like, listen. And that's when he did the smooth hand gesture, slightly touching her hand in a like a dating fashion. So Miles is subtly like putting the moves on her unknowingly. He just doing what he thinks it is, and that's the key for him to be himself. So that's when Miles was like, you just overthink it. He was like, think about it as your cheerleading steps, right? And then that's when she said, dance. And then that's when she said, dance and cheerleading steps. He's like, what does that have to do with anything? And then that's when he was like, just think of it as timing, flow, and keeping the rhythm that connects it. And then that's when Miles started making some beats. Because, hey, I'm going to let you know right now, Miles be making beats for the underground, man. That's his side hustle. So he be low-key making songs. So that's when he was like, for example, take this piece I'm working on. He was like, it's not finished yet, but I hope y'all like it. And I will be putting some beats right here to make this a little bit more interactive, man. You know what I'm talking about? Because this is one of these series that I really plan on making very interactive. So I'm gonna play these beats for about a good 30 seconds, and we're gonna get back to that part. So just hold y'all horses. So after Miles is talking to her while playing the music, right? That's when she was like, you see? And then that's when he said the voltage is the tempo, the current's the groove, resistant is that friend who can't dance but insists on leading. And that's when she laughed genuinely for the first time. And she was like, okay, Morales, you're not as bad as Flash tries to make you seem. It was like, you let Flash speak for me? He was like, that's another thing. Let me do the talking for myself. And maybe you'll see how just of a good of a person I really can be. And that's when she start smiling, because she like, dang, okay. So that's when Miles was like, see, science is just music. He was like, it depends how you look at it. Once you look at it on what you enjoy doing, it gets a lot easier. And so they start working through the worksheet as Miles stays easygoing and flirting a little bit, but he's more of just like, it's that natural energy, make her comfortable, you know what I'm saying? He just reminiscing of what Uncle Aaron said. So after what happened, right? After what happens, right? While that evening, right? As it was approaching the evening, that's when the lights come kind of flicker out, right? And that's when Finn's brother wanted a cup of coffee, but his power started, tweaking out and electrifying as he kind of blast everything away, sort of kind of as that gave Miles enough time to, cover himself and try to change into his costume. As that's when Miles was like, I can't even. That's when Mason was like, I can't even drink a cup of coffee. I can't even see my sister without frying anything. If I tried to see her, I might kill her. And that's when Miles was like, hey man, just calm down. He's like, everything is going to be okay. I'm just like you. See? And then that's when Miles showed his electricity. and he was like, maybe we can help you. He was like, maybe, maybe somebody can get something to help you. He was like, but the way that you're, the way that your currents are and the way that you're displaying your electricity, you are unstable right now. And that's when Mason tries to calm down, right? And then that's when he says, no, you don't understand. And then that's when Miles was able to talk him down. But then that's when Oscorp goons come in, and then that's when he's like, no, you're working for Oscorp, aren't you? He was like, no, how the hell did you get that idea? Yes, we finna add cussing in this motherfucker. We finna add cussing in this bitch. I was like, cause listen. On the side note, on a tangent, man. We all know that Spectacular Spider-Man is nothing but a kid show. They was teetering on that line, if you know what I'm talking about. So that's when Miles was like, how the hell did you get that idea? Since when did you see a person like me working for Oscorp? He was like, you gotta be as stupid as, and then that's when he gets blasted by him, and then that's when he kind of flies out the window, and then that's when Mason steps out, and then that's when Miles was like, oh, that kind of hurt, and then that's when Mason was like, interesting. He was like, you have your own bioelectricity field, so that makes my powers against you a little less unfavorable since you're sort of resistant to it. And that's when Miles was like, yeah, now I'm gonna have to pay you back for that, as he web slings two separate walls, and then that's when he slingshots himself towards Mason as he kicks him into the back into the cab, and then that's when they go to the back room as Miles as Spider-Man says, like, everybody leave, and then that's when Liz was like, wait, where's Miles? And then that's when she goes up to him, please help. That's when she says that she wants him to look for Miles amongst this wreckage, and then that's when he assured her that he is fine and he'll make sure that he's accounted for, but she needs to get out. And then that's when she leaves the building, and then that's when Mason comes back and then shocks him again, and then that's when he uses like an electric blast, and then that's when Miles blocks with his hands, and that's when his own electricity he absorbs it, and then that's what kind of like gives him a temporary amp, as that's when Miles puts his hand into like a Kamehameha motion, right, and shoots red lightning right back at him, as it shoots Mason gets hit by the red lightning, as his bioelectricity is messing with his electricity, as is hurting him, and he was like, I need to escape. And then that's when he makes a distraction, right? So that's when Miles engages and they start fighting again, trying not to let him. That's when Mason tries to escape by causing like an explosion, and then that's when Miles saves them from like an electrical explosion, as Miles was able to stop the falling street light from hitting the civilians, as he absorbed the energy that was coming from that current. And then that's when Mason was overwhelmed by his powers, and he needed to retreat. So that's when Miles tried to look for him, but then that's when the police arrived, and as excuse me, and as Jefferson was arriving on the scene, that's when Miles swung off, and then that's when we have his swinging montage, as he was wondering, he was basically saying that he needs to try to train with Uncle Aaron more, or use Uncle Aaron's punching bag, so he could incorporate his fighting into into what he has on the daily, because he can only get carried by this power so much, and he needs to find a way to stop Mason's or Finn's brother before he gets hurt. And then that's when we cut to Mason as he retreats back to home. And then that's when Finn sees him, and he's like, Mason, you're back? And that's when he's like, don't touch me. And then that's when he lights up in electricity. He's like, don't touch me, I don't want to hurt you. And then that's when that's what Finn was like, what did they do to you? He was like, it was Oscorp. I know Osborn. I know Mr. Osborn did something to the tank. I made sure the calculations was right, and he must have changed something at the last second. And then that's when Oscorp guards was able to track him and temporarily disable his powers, as he just glowed like a faint blue. And then that's when they took him away. And then that's when Mr. Osborn said, Finn, I'm sorry for what happened to your brother. We will assure you that he will get the utmost care. And then that's when Finn started fighting the tears, as she was like, you know what you did to him. I will have... He was like, Osborn, you won't get away with it. And then that's when Mr. Osborn was like, oh, trust me, I already have. And then that's when he closed the door, and that's when Finn breaks down into tears as she goes into the garage. And then that's when she takes out the Tinkerer mask, as it was like mechanical. It was like, her micro engineering mechanical, how she can make anything with her mind, or whatever electric and nanobots that she uses. That's what she does, as she made the prototype with her mask. And that's when she begins becoming the Tinkerer. And now we come to the second day, the next day. That's when Miles tutors Liz again. And then that's when Liz mentioned that there's weird power flicks, power outages everywhere. And that's where she planned to meet her friends at the calf, right? So after that, Dr. Connors monitors Mason's condition, as it shows his bioelectricity fields are unstable and quarantined. And then that's when Mason escapes in his that's when Mason escapes again, right? And then that's when Mason attacks, right? No, my bad. That's when so redact that. I'm tripping. I already went over that part. So the next part is is when they're at ECU, right? So Connors, Gwen, and that's when Connors and Gwen secure the gear up and mention that next time that Mason shows up, they'll have to contain him or he'll destroy the facility, right? And while they're doing that, Finn breaks into her brother's workshop and finding pieces of the insulated suit. And that's when she starts realizing that Oscorp is potentially most likely behind this. And then that's when as that was going on, Miles is doing his daily recon about the city to make sure there isn't no crime on his Spider-Man duties. And he rocking a drip, bro. He is rocking a drip, even in the Spider-Man suit. He don't have the Spider-Man suit on, like I said. He got the hoodie on, but he just shiestied up. He got a shiesty on. Oh my gosh, bro. I'm putting a bad name on Miles right now, but at the same time, he got to put on for the brothers. So as he's reflecting about his guilt about the dangers his power is bringing, and he's trying to still somewhat control it, and he's still having some control, that's when he receives a major alert using police scanners and making an app that detects any alarm before the police is, or any disturbances or power outages, since he had to tweak it for Mason. So he web slings to the ECU lab at night. The lights flicker on and off as the eels that were in the containment were everywhere. So Mason burst in fully charged and demands a cure from Connors as Connors tries to talk him down, and Gwen is in the crosshairs, right? And so that's when as Connors was trying to talk him down, Finn sneaks in through the vent, through the side door, to look for her brother, while Miles arrives on the ceiling and his suit is kind of sparking, and he sees Gwen and Finn in danger. Gwen shielded Connors. That's when Mason shoots like a voltage, right? Gwen shields Connor, and then in a desperate attempt, Finn closing in towards Max, and a desperate, not Max but Mason, in a desperate attempt to try to, like, calm him down. And then that's when Miles steps in and uses his webs, right? And that's when the webs spread out into like an insulating, so he saves Gwen. And then that's when he realizes that if he tries to fight Max, he will probably die or destroy the lab. So he switches game plans, as he wants to try to absorb or diffuse Max's electricity using his own bioelectric powers. So they begin to fight, as Mason was like, "You don't know what you're doing. Step out the way, you spider freak." And then that's when he shoots like 3 beams of electricity, which Miles dodges one, and he blocks the second one and absorbs it with his own electricity, as it comes blue and then it turns red, as his electricity is making it his own, basically, if that makes sense. And then that's when he makes out a huge electrical explosion, as that's when everybody gets blown back. And then that's when Miles tells Finn that he needs to get everybody out of here. And then that's when Finn was like, "That's my brother. I'm not leaving him." And then that's when Electro punches the ground, as it makes like a huge electrical underground shockwave. And then that's when Miles was like, "You don't have a choice." And then that's when Miles slings towards Finn, grabbing her, as he slings her down safely out the building to the first level. And then that's when he does the same with Dr. Connors and Gwen. And then that's when Finn was like, "Please, you have to help him." And then that's when Miles turns toward Finn, as he grabs her by the hand. He was like, "I will do everything that I can to make sure that I could calm him down, or make him find some sort of reason to calm down." So that's when he slings back up to the building. And then that's when Gwen tries to evacuate everybody, and then everybody that's surrounded the building, while Finn, against Miles' wishes, he rushes towards him. So that's when Miles and Mason begin their final battle, as he was like, "You don't know what you're messing with." He was like, "I had time to kind of get the hang of my powers." And as he absorbs a generator right there, he was like, "And now that I figure out how to counter your bioelectricity, this will be much more easy." And as he uses the generator to charge himself and shoots Miles puts his hand out and absorbs it, but he's absorbing too much. And then that's when he blasts his back. And then that's when it was like, "When I figured out that all I had to do was overload the current that you were displaying, it was pretty much rocket science." And he was like, "For somebody who knows their way about currents, you're really not that bright in the head." And then that's when Miles was like, "Really?" And then that's when his bioelectricity was starting to flare out, as he was like, "I like to put that to the theory." And then that's when he turns invisible. And that's when Mason was like, "So you have camouflage as well? Interesting." And then that's when he was like, "I do. And the camo works pretty well. I do have to say so myself." As he comes from behind and kicks Mason, and then web slings him, and then swings him around and throws him into computers and stuff. And then that's when Miles was like, it was like, if you can't beat him, then just absorb him, right? And then that's when Miles uses his bioelectricity, and then that's when he puts his hand on his shoulder, and then I was like, hey, what are you doing? He was like, I'm just simply rearranging your energy. In other words, I'm absorbing your energy. And then that's when he was like, stop. And then that's when he flares his energy as they begin to, fight it out and try to, push and, punch each other. And then that's when Mason flies. That's when Mason flies up into the air, and then that's when Miles is like, "Oh no, you don't!" And then that's when Miles jumps and slings, and then pulls himself towards Mason as they're like currently in the air, right? They're currently in the air, and then that's when Mason begins to punch Miles as Miles is just taking it, and then that's when he was like, "You don't understand what you did. I need to get my revenge." Osborn, I need to find a cure so I could be normal again. And he was like, I get that, and I understand, but how do you think your sister feel? How do you think will Finn feel? And then that's when Mason was like, Finn, how do you know my sister's Miles? And he was like, you can't do this. You can't kill a man for something that he did or potentially did. And he was like, you know this. You were there when the accident happened, and you didn't help me? How could you? And then that's when his energy flares to even more heights as people are gathered around and seeing like a bright blue and a faint red light. He was like, I'll kill you. You knew what happened. You knew what he did, and you sat there idly by, and Finn doesn't know what you did, does she? And then it was like, I'm here to help. I'm not here to try to debate and try to argue or fight you. So just work with me, man. And he was like, no. You had your chance. Water break. And then that's when Mason was like, no, you had your chance. Now I'm gonna make sure Osborn gets his revenge and make sure I make your life a living hell. And then he was like, I'm sorry, man. I can't let you do that. I can't let you hurt Finn, hurt people, hurt Mr. Osborn, despite what he's been doing. And better yet, I can't let you hurt my city. I have to defend it. With great power comes with great responsibility, and I can't let you do that. And then that's when they both tried to charge to their max. And then that's when they both started to overload. And then that's when they fall into the ground. And then that's when he was like, Miles, if there's any heart left in there, you would help me. And as they were come crashing down, that's when Finn comes running towards them, and he was like, no, she's not supposed to be there. And then that's when Mason tries to lessen the energy, but he couldn't. And then that's when he's like, Miles, help me. And he was like, I'm already on it, man. And then that's when Miles goes full charge and dissipates the energy as he did like his super mega venom blast in the air before they come crashing down. And it makes a huge explosion of blue and red energy as Osborn troops and security and medical personnel were already on standby along with the police as Miles comes walking out the crater. That's when Mason was standing, and then that's when he faints due to him not having any energy. And then that's when he web slings away as Osborn comes up, and he was like, I must say, you are a very remarkable person. Why won't you come work for me as a personal bodyguard? Oscorp would love to use your talents and your abilities. And then that's when Miles was like, if you're trying to sell me short and make me sell out, you're doing a damn horrible job at it. And that's when that's when Miles gets close and personal. He's like, I don't know what the hell you did to Mason, one of your co-workers, one of your brightest workers. I don't know what the hell you did to him, but once I find out, I will expose the person you are. And then that's when Finn looks in the background and he was like, on second thought, maybe that isn't my job, but you will get to what's coming to you. And that's when Miles slings away. As we cut to the Miles swinging away as his suit is kind of burned and kind of ripped towards the fights that he had to do. And that's when Miles was like, I don't even know where to begin with all this. First Mason, first Mr. Tobias, now Mason. He was like, if this what comes with being a hero, then I don't want no parts of it. But then again, if I don't, who will? And that's gonna be Miles's staple for him being Spider-Man. If he doesn't, then who will? Just like how with great power comes with great responsibility, that's going to be Miles' staple. If he doesn't, then who will? And as we fade to black with the full moon looking over the horizon, we see the Prowler scouting buildings and watching Miles as he's getting intel on him. And then that's when a certain person clothed in white cloth in orange and blue, he was like, you got the information? He was like, yeah, Tombstone pays well, but you pay better. And this is where Taskmaster comes in. He was like, kid can't be no more than 15 or 16. All his powers and abilities are over there, are on this drive. He was like, interesting, Prowler, I appreciate your work. And he was like, yeah. And then that's when Taskmaster is like, how come you don't want to join forces with me? We could take over the city. He was like, I'm not interested in that. He was like, I already do enough crimes as it is. So when I could do it on my own terms, that's when I'll do it. And then that's when Prowler uses a smoke bomb and he's finished. And that's when he disappears. And Taskmaster was like, even though I could copy everything, I still can't copy that. Another water break. Excuse me. So now that we come to the next day, to ending scene, we have Miles going to school as he's tutoring Liz, right? He tutors Liz, right? And then Liz passes her test with flying colors. We'll say she got an 85%. And then that's when Miles was talking to Gwen, as Gwen and Miles are starting to, become friends. And that's when Finn also is coming back to school, as Gwen, Miles, and Finn are talking with, Gwen and Miles are comforting Finn about what happened. And then that's when Gwen was gonna work up the courage to ask Miles to homecoming, right? But then that's when that's when Liz came up running towards Miles, all in his arms, damn near jumped in his arms. And then that's when Liz was like, Miles, I did it. I passed my test. And now that my grade is up, I could be on a cheer team again. And then that's when she was like, it's all thanks to you and your amazing mind. And then that's when Miles started blushing, because he never got compliments like that before. Well, from Finn, but he didn't see Finn like that. And I'm finna make this man a fucking man whore, bro. Gonna make this man a man whore, bro. Listen, actually, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna let y'all decide who y'all want him to be with. But he was like, nah, I was just being myself and paying attention and just doing what I can. It was your smarts and you were the one that was able to do it, so I'm proud of you. And then that's when Liz was like, really? He was like, yeah, of course. He was like, every achievement that you accomplish, whether it be big or small, I'm always going to cheer in your corner. And then that's when that's when Liz started thinking, because Flash never did anything like that, paid attention to her like that. He was only paying attention to the physical part. And no, Flash ain't crack. Flash is not cracking. So, no. And yes, we all know Liz is a little spicy Latina. What does Miles know about Latinas? Well, he about to get to know every single race you can think of. All right. Look, I'm getting too excited with this shit, bro. But yeah, that's when she hugs him really tight and says thank you as she kisses him on the cheek. And then that's when he was like, wow. And then that's when Gwen was, kind of, jealous. Same with Finn, but she's dealing with other stuff right now. She's gonna use those feelings and channel it to fight Oscorp, right? So school ends. Miles makes it home, and he's, he gets in his makeshift suit again, and that's when he starts patrolling in his shiesty with the hoodie flaring in the wind and stuff. As we cut it with Miles swinging towards the camera, and it fades to black, and then we cut to a very low cut garage with only lights flashing every about 3 to 5 seconds, as we see Finn in her little tank top with her natural curly hair just all out there. I'm gonna put a picture up. So she's making her tinkerer stuff, and as she's doing it, she's just channeling all her emotions and anger into what happened to her brother, how Spider-Man, kind of helped but not really, and Oscorp. And so as she finishes the last touch, she puts on the gauntlet, and then that's when she imagines a sword, and that's when a sword appears, and then she does it with a big gauntlet hand, and that's when it turns into a big gauntlet hand, and then that's when she puts the thing on her neck, like it was like a necklace. It came into like a necklace that her brother gave to her, so it's in the shape of that, and then that's when she activates it, and then it turns into the Tinkerer mask, and then that's where I'm gonna be leaving this What If off. I hope y'all enjoyed season 1, episode 2 of What If Miles Morales was in Spectacular Spider-Man. Now I know what y'all gonna say. What are you planning on doing with this series? So I'm gonna be real with y'all. This is gonna have a CW feel to it. Now, yes, this is gonna have a CW feel to it. Now listen, when it comes to certain scenes, I'm not gonna say it, but all I'm gonna say is 2 + 2 = 4. So if y'all hear, or I say they have a intense study session, y'all already know what the fuck going on, man. Cause let's be real, every CW show that takes place at high school, they always cracking each other. Let's be fucking real, bro. We not gonna sit up here and play that. We're not gonna sit there and play that, bro. But also, for real stuff, this is going to be a little bit more darker, a little bit more gritty, and a little bit more action. So yes, there's going to be some blood, there's going to be some heartbreaks, there's going to be some passionate scenes. Not too passionate, because listen, I'm not above it, but I got some morals, and that's kind of, it's kind of weird. We'll hold off on that. But like I said, this is going to be one of these greatest series that I think I'm ever going to do, besides the Mori Jin Got a High School XDXD. That was probably the greatest series I ever did. And the Invincible series is going to be the greatest series I would have ever did. And the Danny Phantom series is going to be one of the greatest series I ever did. I'm pretty sure I got, like, so far I got like 2 bangers. The Got a High School and the Invincible banger, with Danny becoming a runner-up. I say I got some pretty good bangers, man. I feel like I got some pretty good bangers as a series, and I feel like this Spectacular Miles is going to be another fucking banger. But without any further ado, man, I appreciate y'all for all the love and support y'all been showing me. Make sure y'all go check out episode 1. I did episode 1. After I upload this, I will be going live to finish What If Goku Was in Smallville, and I'm gonna just be chilling with the game on the game. So after I finish the live, I'm gonna go live again, and we could just kick it and chill, and I'm gonna just be playing Schedule 1. So I hope y'all enjoy. Like, comment, subscribe, and this is Redux What Ifs signing off.